الآن يمكنكم المشاركة في مبادرة الأيام الرقمية تحت شعار انطلق بقوة مع جوجل، والتي يتناول فيها خبراء جوجل عناوين جديدة أسبوعيا مثل السحابيات، مهارات من جوجل، أندرويد، فلتر، ذكاء الآلة، فايربيس، ديزاين ثينكينج، مقسمة إلى دورات وورشات عمل يومية بالإضافة إلى مسابقات أسبوعية. شاهد الأيام الرقمية مباشرة على اليوتيوب وشارك رأيك وأسئلتك مع خبراء جوجل، واحصل على شهادة حضور في كل محاضرة تشترك فيها. هذا وأكثر من الأحد إلى الخميس ابتداء من الساعة 9 بتوقيت دبي عبر الرابط المبين youtube.com/gdgmena.
Hello, hello everyone. I know it's very late in MENA, and that's it's not very late here, but I will try to keep it lively and exciting. Thank you so much for waiting so long and still being online and watching, and also thank you for your chat messages, some of which I understand, some of which I don't, unfortunately. This talk is well, it's a question and answers talk. So first of all, my name is Filip Hracek. I'm a developer relations engineer at Flutter in Google. My work is talking to developers, bringing what they think and what they ask to the development team at Google, and also training on different new technologies that have something to do with Flutter, right? So most recently there was the Null Safety feature, which we might talk about if you ask about it. Anyway, so that's me. I would like to spend the first maybe 7, 8, 10 minutes kind of talking through the origin story of Flutter and the history of Flutter and how it came to be. And then I think Ahmed will come and we can talk to each other, but I will also be monitoring the chat, of course, and I'm sure Ahmed as well, and will be answering your question. And you can ask about anything, and I'm not sure I will be able to answer it all, but we'll see. All right, so first I'd like to, Flutter Engage is a big deal, and it was a big moment for Flutter. There's Flutter 2, right? So let's kind of step back and think about Flutter from a longer perspective. Flutter started as a kind of a small project in Chrome, the browser. So some people in Chrome said, okay, we have this browser, we have this amazing technology that can very efficiently and in a performant way show web pages and render and work with JavaScript and HTML and CSS, right? So there's been a lot of things invested and a lot of work invested in this browser. Now, what would happen? And I think they had like 1 week or 2 weeks. What would happen if we just like took some things that have been in the browser for a long time and maybe are not as used today, and just rip them out and just remove things and backwards compatibility from Chrome, and see what it would look like? Would it be more performant? Would it be nicer to work with, and so on? So they did this for, I think, only a week, and they realized that only after just 1 week of ripping things out from Chrome, they were able to make it about 40% faster. Like I'm not sure about the actual number, but much faster. Therefore, less battery consumed and everything like that. And so they thought, okay, there's something there. Maybe we should explore it more. And this grew slowly into this. Like you could think of it as a browser for web that would, if we could reinvent the web today, how would the browser and how would our development for the web look like, right? Because today a lot of the initial requirements for the web of like, you have a document and you have interlinking are of course important, but same importance is also added to things like pixel perfect designs and animations and interactivity and so on and so forth. So that's the kind of the practical origin story of Flutter, where people were just looking at Chrome and the browser and the web and seeing what could be different and how could we modernize it. In the end, they said, okay, so we obviously don't want to like remove features from the web because web is kind of based on backwards compatibility. So how about we put this new project outside of Chrome and make it into something new, something that will be a UI toolkit, will be able to render apps on different platforms, will be very portable, and will enable you to build apps quickly and of high quality apps for any platform, right? So that's one thing. That's the kind of the practical origin story. But that's not the whole story. The other part of the story is that there has been this substrate of thinking about screens for a long time in Google, but also I think everywhere else. And that is that screens are getting ubiquitous. Like right now, for example, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 screens just sitting in my bedroom. So it's pretty crazy. If you go to a modern house, our house isn't, but like a new modern house, maybe in 5 years, it's very possible that just walking into a kitchen will give you, I don't know, 4 screens. And then you go to the living room and there's another 3 screens, right? And you always have one screen with you. So there's lots of screens basically now. What you want to do, and so the thing is that even though we are in this ubiquitous screen world, they don't really work with each other, right? So you always have to know, okay, so this is a TV, so it has this kind of operating system, and I have to kind of get it going, and I have to like log into this, and then here's another operating system that I have to work with, and so on and so forth, right? So it's not smooth. If you look at, for example, science fiction movies, even science fiction movies that go like 60 years back, when someone comes into a room where there's many screens, you think about Star Trek and all that, then they're not sorry, it's very rare. I think I've never seen it that they would kind of start thinking about what each screen is, like what the operating system is. Those screens just work together seamlessly, right? So they can come in and this screen will show them something and that screen will show them something else, but they can do some magic and it will somehow, everything will come to life, that kind of stuff. And this is kind of obvious in retrospect. Like if you have no technical barriers, then of course you would want something like this. You wouldn't want every user to need to know what operating system is working on each screen and how much they can interact to each other, and putting together cables and stuff like this. So that's the kind of the idea of ubiquitous screens. How can we make it possible in today's world to be able to have one application, for example, that kind of can flow through the screens that are around you and not really care what the operating system is? And what you need for something like that in the real world, where there's a lot of different operating system, is something like a portable UI toolkit, right? So that kind of starts to merge together. And so Flutter is kind of like that. I think from the beginning, it was meant to be this portable UI toolkit that runs everywhere. But of course, they had to scope it down so that it somehow works. They can't just make it work everywhere from the beginning. So they picked the obvious choices of Android and iOS. And so for a long time, Flutter was this cross-platform UI toolkit for building mobile apps for iOS and Android. But now with Flutter 2 and Flutter Engage, you've probably seen how that is changing, right? So we now support iOS and Android, but we also support web to some extent. We also support desktop to some extent. We've heard people from Canonical, which is the people who make the Ubuntu Linux distribution, that they are using Flutter to build their very important part of the UI, and they will make it easy for Linux developers to build Linux apps in Flutter. So that's one like big desktop thing. Right now I'm running on my screen a desktop app built in Flutter that is I can show you later. I just wanted it to be there just in case someone asks. And we also learned at Flutter Engage, if you've missed it, we've learned from Toyota that they will build their big screen in their cars on Flutter. So they will be running Flutter there. So that kind of all comes together, right? Like it's starting to make sense now why Flutter, why it's such portable thing, why there's such a big deal about performance, because it needs to run on devices that are embedded and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. So hopefully that kind of gives you a more big picture view of what Flutter is about and why all these things have been important for us. And now I think I'm happy to kind of either still talk about these high-level things, but also I'm sure there are some more practical and everyday questions out there. And I'm told that maybe Ahmed will be joining me sometime about now. So we'll see if he can make it. But before he does that, or like as he does that, I am going to look at some of your questions. Hey. Hello. Hey, Ahmed.
Hi, Philip. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. How are you? I can hear myself in the background, so I'm I'm guessing.
Yeah, just closed it. Yeah, I was watching your talk. I am very happy to have you with us in MENA events. This is the first time we have you, and I wish we can repeat it many times in the future, inshallah.
Yes.
Actually, let me start with very important questions that never one asked before. What's your favorite state management solution?
Right. Yes. It's kind of an inside joke because I was looking at state management in Flutter for a long time, and kind of we were talking about it a lot. This is something that's still being asked, and obviously it's being asked because state management is kind of a big deal, right? Flutter is a UI framework, so it has no inherent ideas of how you should manage the state of your app. It doesn't force you to do anything, which is good on one hand. On the other hand, if you don't have any like strong opinions, then you might be a little kind of out there like what do I do, right? We think that this is something that there are some high-level ideas that every Flutter developer and every declarative framework developer should know about. I tried to put them into, if you go to flutter.dev/docs/state management, I think you will find there on the left menu a section about state management, and it kind of goes through like the main ideas of like how to approach it. And then it shows those ideas on one particular package called Provider, which I use because that's kind of like the easier, like it's most the one that is easy, and also it just sits on top of Flutter. Like it's very very thin, thin thing on top of Flutter. But I also know that a lot of people love things like. You can use Redux in Flutter. You can use a thing called Riverpod in Flutter. Block is popular. I'm forgetting many other small bags. Like there's many different approaches, and it also It's about what you know, what you like, how big your project is, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm basically saying like if I was completely new to Flutter, I would try Provider at first to kind of get the idea, and then I would go shopping for like a good state management approach.
Great answer. Actually, one of the best things I noticed 1.5 years ago, when Flutter start thinking about state management, they didn't force the community for specific package. They used an open source package that Remy created, and then you start contribute to it and try to make it better. And other Flutter developer team, and they publish it to the community. And this makes me feel the power of Flutter. Flutter is really an open source project. It's the open source is in its heart. Google using the community contribution and recommended it for everyone. So Filip recommended package is an open source package created from the community, not from the Flutter team. And as I can see now, there is the number of developers that contributing to Flutter from from the community, I think bigger than the Flutter developers team, which is very, very great thing. Makes us feel this is really what open source about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Second question, as they sent to me, what's the best local database you prefer to use with Flutter?
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's hard for me to answer because I know this is kind of a thing that is at Google we have our own solutions. So Google apps really don't apply here, and I can't really recommend anything that's not out there, right? And so what I'm saying, talking about now is apps that are built in Flutter at Google, like Stadia, GPay, and so on and so forth. So and these I see their source code and stuff like this. Then I can only tell you about the things that I know. Like for example, if you use Firebase, it kind of gives you a local storage as well, right? Like it can work with you being offline, and then it syncs and stuff like that. I'm aware of things like Hive, but I'm not sure how. Like this is like a year ago. So yeah, I can't really recommend. I can't recommend anything because I'm not using that kind of stuff, you know.
From real life, using as I have a software company that I'm using Flutter every day with my team. It depends on the Flutter, on the needs you need. If you need simple database storage, shared preferences can be good for you. If you need advanced database, FFI, Dart FFI, and SQLite support came to Flutter. And also, if you need secure database that allow you to encrypt the data, shared preferences allows you to do that. And Hive also has a great support. Hive maybe faced a little bit issues last year, but when I checked them again, I found they updated their code and provide a very good database, which very speed and can give you the both speed and security at the same time. So in my opinion, it depends on your need. You need simple database. You need online and offline synchronization. Firebase will be the best solution because it will handle offline data for you for free. No need to synchronize and update the data. Firebase can do that for you. So thank you, Filip, for your answer. One of the important questions came. It's a lot of people asking me about it. Why Flutter not following specific design pattern like MVC, MVM, MVVM? It's just give you the freedom to do whatever you want.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of getting to maybe talking about at least MVC, right? So all these patterns can be distilled into MVC. Basically, you have a model which is what you're trying to present to the user. Then you have the view, which is Flutter widgets, and then you have something that spans those things and tries to control it. So that's the controller, MVC, right? Of course, there are MVP, MVVM, and so on and so forth. But like like really even that you can still distill to MVC. So I think maybe in the future we will be talking about that. But the fact again is, you know, you can do like we don't want to prescribe anything and like force you to think about something in a special way, right? We want to give you some ideas similar to the state management part, where you're like, okay, so this is how I think about things. This is how it is good idea to separate these two things or three things from each other, but the way that you do it might be different from piece of software to piece of software. One thing that I want to address, or I need to say, is that Flutter apps they started as mobile apps, right? So of course, yes, there is a lot of things are similar among apps, no matter if you're an Android or an iOS, right? But Flutter as a UI framework supports a lot more, right? So you can build a desktop app, you can build a game, you can build some, you know, point of sales, a little thing you can build for a Toyota car. You know, it's just mind-boggling how many different things you can build with this. And if we said, if you said like the best way to do this is like Redux or something like this, then that makes it harder for some people to kind of imagine how they would build their app, you know. So one other way to do it, or to explain it, is like, if you're familiar with game development, there's Unity and like Godot and stuff like this in game development. They also give you some ways. They are similar in that they will give you ways to target different platforms. They will do a lot of the things for you in the background, but they don't tell you how exactly you should write your game, and that will be very different between different games. And Flutter is like that. It's kind of trying to be like, hey, I'm really good in like splitting pixels to the screen. I'm also good at kind of like guarding you from the platform specifics, but other than that, it's a free for all. You can do whatever you want.
So you can start with single file and you can customize it based on your business need, whatever previous experience you have. You are free to do whatever you want. Thank you, Philip. A lot of people asking about important issue with iOS junk. There is an issue with iOS, Flutter engine, and iOS?
Yes. So thank you for asking this. This is something that we've been looking at for a long time, since at least when it started, and it started when we had to, or well, we didn't have to, but we kind of needed to change our rendering engine from using OpenGN to using Metal on iOS, and this showed some problems that happen when you start your app on iOS. That app today, that the app needs to first compile shaders, right? Yeah. So it needs to warm up, yes. And on Android, that's not such a big deal, because Android can actually, we can actually save those shaders, so that warm-up work, we can save it and either provide it with the app as you download it from the App Store or Play Store, or at least like you can do it once and then it's done. For a Metal, there is no such thing right now, and we are working on different like ways to mitigate it. There are really different ways to mitigate it. There's no one single solution. Also, I want to make sure that it's clear that this is not like a single bug that is somewhere in our code and we can just go and change it and that's going to be fine. This is like a really like big architectural problem. The team is really very much on it. Like we have several people trying different approaches at this very moment. We have and it's not like this is like the first time Flutter is trying to overcome some platform problem. We've done this before, so it's going to happen at some point. So that's the first thing, the first part. Not to minimize, this is a big problem if you have an app that has lots of moving parts, and some apps are more affected than others. And I'm sure this is very frustrating for some app developers out there who see their app like being slow, even though Flutter is like we say that Flutter is fast, but like it starts janking at first. That said, I also want to say that like there are many apps that don't have this problem, even on iOS. Like I've seen many apps that don't have it, because this is exacerbated by some things that you can do with your app. For example, if you have SVG, a lot of SVG animations in your app, and they all start at once, and also at the same time you're doing something else, then yes, you're going to see more jank, because this is exactly when Flutter sees your SVG animation and he needs to compile that shader for each frame separately. So it's really bad for that. And like one option to avoid it is to just like, instead of having an SVG animation, bake it into a PNG or GIF animation and you're done, right? That is not possible in some scenarios, but in some scenarios it is. So the other thing I want to say is that some people tell us like, hey, my app is junky on iOS, and this is because of iOS jank. And then we realize, oh, it's just the app is slow. It's also slow on Android, and there are some ways you can improve it without even waiting for us to fix anything, right? And so for that, I really recommend we have some documentation on how to improve the performance of your app, and you should go read it and see if you can make some change and some difference yourself.
Great, thank you, Philip. The next a question about Flutter Web. How do you describe Flutter Web? Is it a web application or a website? How we can use it?
Yeah, that's a good question, because a lot of people think like, okay, so Flutter is on the web, so therefore it will be perfect for every web page out there, and so you don't have any reason to use anything else on the web. That's not true. Flutter is good for some parts of the web or some things on the web, and not for others. So I talked in the beginning about the kind of the document, like beginnings of the web. Flutter is not for that. If you have a big document that you scroll through, or which is 99% of pages on the web, then Flutter Web will give you nothing, and it will only take from you, right? So that's one thing. You shouldn't do that. If you have an app, like an actual app that is not so much about scrolling through a lot of content and reading, but more about like for example, well, I have in my I have the example of Invoice Ninja, but any kind of like app where there's, for example, forms and stuff like this, then Flutter on the web will, I think, be a good option. So basically, progressive web apps that aren't about reading or like consumption, but are more about interactivity, I think is a good way to put it. There is still a hit, even for things that are not a big document. There is still a hit that you'll see when using Flutter for web, because we have to run, instead of compiling to native machine code, which we do on desktop and on mobile phones, we have to compile to JavaScript, and there is so that it's not as fast as we would like. There's work being done on it, and we think that we'll make it much faster in the future. But you shouldn't, if this is your main thing is to have something like very fast on the web, then that's not a good solution. I'll say that I think like right now the best way to use Flutter for web is when you already have a Flutter app and you kind of want to, for example, give a demo to people. So people who are like, oh, I don't want to like install an app just to see how it's going. You can be like, you can just like look, this is how it works on the phone, and now you can go install it. And that's great, because that's something that you can do. I don't think you can do it in many other frameworks.
Exactly. So Flutter with Flutter 2 gives us a free upgrade for a new platform, which is web, can compile to PWA or SPA for free when you are upgrading your application to Flutter version 2. And also, when I talked with the Flutter web team, they told me the most important milestone they want to reach to put Flutter web in the stable channel. And this is very important for us as a developers, to have this technology in the stable channel to be able to use it in our application. So I think it's a matter of time. Issues like SEO or server rendering service or social cards or any meta tags related to social search engines, it's a matter of time. And the most important thing was bringing desktop as early release and Flutter web to the stable channel, and then they will add more widgets, and the community itself can contribute to this and add the missing widgets need to Flutter web. Thank you, Philip. Another question, they asking about what is the difference between const and final.
Const final. Okay, so yes, const is compile time constant. Therefore, if something is const, that means that Dart itself can compile during compilation, before it even runs on the device. You can know exactly what this is. So, for example, all strings or numbers, literals are constants, right? So, like, it can be baked into your app as a thing, as a piece of data. So that's constant. It's very fast, therefore. So there's no computation needed on the device to make it work. If you have a string or if you have a const widget somewhere, then it's just a piece of data already in the compiled app that is there, right? In contrast to that, if I'm going to ignore final for now. In contrast to that, anything else you have to kind of like you have to run, and during runtime, Dart needs to figure out, okay, so this is this or that, it needs to make some work to do that. Final is basically saying, once we do this work once, once we assign to this variable once, then it's never going to be reassigned again. And this is good for you as a developer, because it's if you know that something really should not ever be reevaluated, then you can put final there, and you know that it's going to be there for forever. And second, it's good for the compiler, because it knows now that it can only do it once, and that's it, right? So it can optimize something. And what may be confusing is that if you want to create a class that could be constant, so therefore, like, I can create a class called person, and I want to be able to make it constant. So like, I can do const person Filip Hracek is a constant. Then I have to have all the fields in that class final, which means they are not constant, because they have to be able to be assigned to, but they are final, so therefore they never change. So if I then do const Filip Hracek or person Filip Hracek, then Dart during compile time can be like, oh yeah, he's right, this is a final field, the name is a final field, so therefore it never can change, so therefore I can really make it a constant object.
Great, thank you. The next question is, there is any advice for smooth or better way to upgrade my code to Flutter 2 or to Null Safety?
Oh,
if
yes.
There is tips and tricks, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely. So I don't know if everybody is aware of the Dart Migrate tool. So if you have your app and you just go into the command line, I think there's currently only the way, and you do Dart Migrate, it will look through your app. It will give you some ideas. For example, sometimes it just tells you, hey, your dependencies are not yet null safe. You should first make sure that your dependencies are null safe, right? So then you go and you upgrade your dependencies, and sometimes that means you have to change your code, but still you're non-safe. You're not null safe, and then afterwards you can again try Dart Migrate, and again it will kind of iteratively tell you what you have to do, and at some point it will give you this not site but like web tool, yes, which kind of tells you, hey, I want to change these fields to be null safe or not, and so on. Basically it suggests changes that you can make to this, and you can go and again iteratively tell the tool, I want this, I don't want that, and so on and so forth. And then you can apply migration, and ideally you're done, right? But it's I think as for recommendation, I also I think it's a good idea to have a look at null safety and maybe try to play around with it a little bit at first, so you kind of see what it's all about, and then only then use it for a bigger project, because on a bigger project you could get overwhelmed really easily. It's a lot of changes that could potentially be an issue.
Actually, I think also you did 3 talks about null safety in different
yes
chapters. You can, if you need the English version, you can find Filip version, and if you need Arabic version, I already created a full null safety story about. I'm explaining the idea and why we need that, and what is the issue if we didn't have that, and how to migrate, and also how to use the tool to migrate your code and apply your changes, and the most important tips and tricks when you are changing your code. So you'll find it in my channel also, and also you'll find it in Flutter Dev Arabic and English version. Important question, actually, I know one of my friends asked here. Flutter is moving very fast, more than other packages. A lot of developers now are facing an issue that the packages are not following Flutter in upgrade to support null safety, to support Flutter 2. If there is anything, can Google help or Flutter team help to speed this cycle to be able to upgrade our application easily to Flutter 2 or to null safety?
Yes. So first, 2 things. One of them is there's been a lot of movement for Flutter 2, and now it's going to be like at least half a year of like stabilization, and like let the community upgrade and migrate to the newest things, right? So we understand that it's not going to just work like this. You have to wait for packages to get migrated and so forth. If, for example, your dependencies are not yet migrated, don't feel the pressure to like immediately migrate, right? You should keep be patient. So that said, there are ways that the Flutter team and the Dart team are trying to figure out how to make it possible for package owners to migrate, to help you migrate their code to your new version. I mean, your code to their package's new version. So as a package owner, I can be like, oh, I need to change this in version 57. I am going to change the name of this class to that. And I can, and this is experimental right now, but it will hopefully be available pretty soon, where I can add a little file to my package, which basically says exactly this as a YAML file, which says something like, this was named that, but now it's called this. And this allows you, as a user of my package, to go to like your IDE or maybe on the command line and say, I want to Flutter fix, or I think it's Dart fix or something like this, and
Yes.
and it will give you suggestions or immediately will apply the changes for you. And I think that will be a huge improvement, because especially if you're doing changes that are breaking but not really that breaking, only like renames and stuff like this, then you're going to unblock a lot of migration in the community, and it also allows people to evolve their packages, because if you have a package, it's very hard to change anything, because you know that you're going to get people not like you if you're doing too many changes. So yeah, well, we hope that this will help. But also we know that some things take time, and it's okay to take your time to be patient.
Great. Actually, Philip, give us now a secret that a lot of people didn't know, that Flutter Fix maybe or can fix your packages as it can fix your code. So packages owner, listen to that and know how to open that. And I'll give you another secret. Flutter is fully open source project. If you dive into the repos and the GitHub and the comments, you can easily know what's going on, what is the next future, because everything is public and everything running through GitHub. The next question, some people feels like Navigator version 2 is a little bit complex and not easy to use. If there is any updates in the future or some modification make it easier for developer to use?
Yes. So Flutter Navigator 2 was meant to be if you're building a new API, or if you're building an API for anything, you have the choice to go either with I want as many things as possible to be possible, and then I want as many things as possible to be easy, right? And so I think Navigator went to and like consciously they went to, we want as many things as possible to be possible. We want if you want to do whatever you want with navigation in an app, you want to be able to do it. So Navigator 2 does this, and it supports everything from web to mobile apps to desktop apps, everything, of course. It's also in some ways more manageable in that it kind of is, everything is kind of explicit, right? But it's kind of terrible in terms of right now. Like if you use just Navigator 2 without any package on top of it, it's pretty hard to use, and it's pretty frustrating, a lot of boilerplate. So from the get-go, we were hoping that there would be packages. Like if you only want X and Y, then you will use this package. You will not even think about Navigator 2.0, because that's going to be managed for you. And there are already packages from the community that do that. We hope that there will be more, and there will be maybe like some opinionated ways to do it. But we really needed that API that really lets you do anything, and that's what Navigator 2.0 is. If it seems too complicated, it probably is, and you shouldn't feel like you should learn Navigator 2.0 as your like thing. It's as if you were using like render objects. It's really that deep.
Exactly. So we can say that the core part is finished, and we will talk about the widgets layer, the declarative way of using Navigator. And there is already existing package that makes your life easier with using Navigator. Exactly what happened with change notifier, or using render object at the background. There is some state management solution in front of the change notifier that can make things easier to use. And I think, yes, it was very important, because Flutter opened to new platforms, desktop and web, need to unify everything and make sure they can do whatever challenges they will face in this platform. And the easier part, the user part. And I think maybe the team shared some user UI UX research about what's the community suggestion about Navigator 2, what's pro and cons you find, and this is a matter of time, exactly like we said before about Flutter. There is a question about Flutter Web. Is Flutter Web can do more than HTML and CSS? Can give us a powerful applications?
Yeah,
for web?
well, I mean, it is in some ways it is built on HTML and CSS. It's always a matter of like how easy things are, right? So if you what Flutter gives you is a pretty easy way to do things kind of pixel perfect, right? So the web is almost by definition not pixel perfect. If you want that, then Flutter might help. You pay the price of sometimes performance, for example, but it is something where you build something for desktop or mobile phone, and it will look exactly the same on the web. And if you're a web developer, I haven't been a web developer for a long time, but like I know that there were some things that were frustratingly hard to do on the web. They were always possible, but like, you know, just vertically centering something on a screen was at some point pretty hard. With Flutter, it's just a center widget. So I don't want to say that some things are, you know, easier than with on the web than, I mean, sorry, with Flutter than on the web by themselves. But they're definitely it unlocks some possibilities that are otherwise, I think, pretty hard to do.
Actually, I think there's production applications that use Flutter in the next level, like Rive, like iRobot. They are using Flutter for web because Flutter using CanvasKit and HTML. You can and auto switch between CanvasKit WebGL library to HTML based on the device that browsing the website.
Yeah. So that's a really good point, Ahmed, because Rive, and this is exactly what we kind of imagined that Flutter Web would be the best thing to do. It's basically if you want like something like Photoshop or some application like that, maybe not on the phone, but especially on the web. I mean, on the desktop web, and you want that kind of experience. And so therefore, it's not about reading and scrolling a lot of text. It's about having pixel perfect ways to show something to you. And you have a mouse and you have a billion little things you can do with that particular thing. And that's a big, that's actually a big market, right? Like, because people don't buy websites, but they do buy or subscriptions to apps like Photoshop and stuff like that, and that's what we want to support. And that's, I think we're already there. We're like the Rive people are pretty happy with what they get with Flutter. It's fast, especially on desktop, obviously, and they can also, as a bonus, they can make a desktop app next to it, which is even faster and even more integrated with your desktop.
Great, thank you, Philip. Also, I covered that in my previous talk, and I have 2 full sessions about Flutter Web and real life applications that using Flutter Web. You can consider Flutter is a 2D engine that control the screen and allows you to compile your application whatever platform you need. You need in web. Okay, we'll give you web version. You need PWA version. You need WebAssembly or you need HTML. Everything you need, you can do it with Flutter. And we already covered that. You can configure the output using CanvasKit render engine or HTML or make it auto for Flutter to decide which best for the user. So Flutter is full 2D engine, control the screen and give you 6 different application for 6 different platforms for free when you are using it. I think the next question about SEO, and we already answered that. This is in the pipeline for the team because the most important feature was going to stable channel. What is the hashtag in the URL? Why Flutter uses hash sample in the URL in Flutter Web?
Was the story? The hash in the browser. Yes. I'll say. I mean, you probably know more about this, Ahmed, than I do, because I'm not a Flutter web person. But yeah, go ahead. It's
Actually, it's by default. It was approach for a lot of applications that use the hashtag, and in the future you will be able to remove it or customize it, whatever you want. Because when you are talking about Flutter now, we are talking about PWA and SPA. Don't think about Flutter; it will create content management system for you. It's mostly focused on SPA and PWA, and you can customize it and you can override it in the future. This is my answer for. I think we already answered all the questions.
There's one. So will Flutter be the future of mobile app development, or will we be surprised that Google will stop support at happened before? Yes. So I think right, like nobody can assure anything about anything in the future, right? Like we didn't know a year ago that we would have a pandemic and stuff like this. So I just don't want to say like Flutter will be here for the rest of the universe. But on the other hand, there are ways to look at things like practically. Like yes, anyone can stop anything, but you have to look at why they did it and why they might not want to do it. And I've been at Google for a long time, and I've done developer relations for products that were then not very successful, and then they had to be canceled, and that was really painful because I was the one who was like trying to get people excited because I was excited for them, and then they didn't work out. And so at some point I was like, never again. I don't want to be in this position of trying to get someone excited about something that I don't know if that's going to be there in the future. And one thing that I like about Dart and Flutter is that it is used for mission critical production, money making things at Google right now, and it has been for some time. There's millions of lines of code at Google in Flutter and in Dart, right? And so, and again, nothing is 100% sure, but from what I've seen before, whenever you have something like this, whenever like Microsoft uses something that they use themselves, it's not going anywhere because that company is invested in it, right? Even if you look at packages, like for example, in the Android world, there are packages like Dagger and stuff like this where they were popular and they were open source, but they were also, and what some people didn't realize, they were also really important for some particular company, and that particular company used that, and so they also funded that particular project for forevermore, and that made them very stable and very performant and very maintained. So my answer to this is always look at how many like really important things, and I'm not just talking about Stadia, I'm not talking about GPay, I'm talking about like AdWords, which is literally what makes Google spend money, and so this is to me it's the best that I can hope for in an open source project, is that it is used as a critical part of someone's business and that someone is maintaining it for others.
Great. So we can summarize it. Flutter is an open source project, and you can see the companies that investing in Flutter now. As you can see with Flutter 2 Conical announcement, Flutter now is the default desktop application for Ubuntu. So a big company like Conical that drive Ubuntu project now using Flutter. Toyota and their cars and their customized pipeline development tools, they already using Flutter. Google itself, there is more than 9 applications now using Flutter, more than 1,000 developers inside Google itself using Flutter now and contribute to the Flutter. Microsoft start contributed to Flutter because this is the idea of open source. And even that, I maybe wrote that 3 years ago on Twitter. Even Google itself left Flutter. We love Flutter. Flutter is open source, and we can continue use it because this is what life. Nothing guaranteed for 100%, but you can see Google future operating system are investing in Flutter also and using Flutter. And any technology, it maybe take 10 to 15 years to disappear. So I can guarantee for next 5 years or 10 years, Flutter will be there. And as a developer, you can prepare yourself every 5 to 10 years. You will update your tools or the technology you are using because everything is changing fast. Thank you, Filip. It's my pleasure to have you with us in MENA event today. And I really wish we can do that more and more later time, inshallah ta'ala. If anything, I leave you to finish the talk and do whatever you want or advice you want to say to the developer. Thank you, Filip.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for having me. Thank you for guiding me through the questions, everything, and also helping me answer those. I'm really, I really like this. The questions were excellent. I think that's the main part. The answers are really, easy afterwards. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for staying up late, and also please invite me to next events like this. I will be happy to be there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Filip. Same. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.